thank you guys for signing on. I'd much rather be doing an in-person event there in Virginia, but it is what it is. So those of you that don't know me, my name is Sammy Gilla. I'm the Academic Relations Manager with Aspen Dental Management. So I actually work for Aspen Dental Management, which is the organization that supports all of the Aspen Dental practices across the US. And those practices are each individually owned by a practice owner or a licensed dentist. And today we have two docs that are from North Carolina, practicing in North Carolina, Dr. Katie Heald and Dr. Caroline Hall. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves in just a second. But again, you guys can submit your questions at the bottom of the screen there where it says Q&A. And it's a free-for-all. You guys can literally ask anything you want. And this is just an opportunity for you guys to understand a little bit better what Aspen Dental is all about, to get some more clarity, and just to really understand these two story that's here with us today. So Dr. Katie, do you want to start off by introducing yourself and kind of just end off with an interesting fact?
Sure. I'm Dr. Katie Heald, and I went to VCU for dental school, did a GPR at the University of Florida and VA Hospital in Gainesville, and have been with Aspen for almost 8 years now. And now I'm back in North Carolina, and I own soon to be 5 offices.
Great.
And fun fact, I've got 2 children, 5 and 2.5.
So she's Superwoman, owns 5 practices and has 2 kids. Thank you. All right, Dr. Caroline.
Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Hall. I work with Dr. Katie in North Carolina. I'll be moving out to a practice in Morganton, North Carolina. I just started working for Dr. Katie about 3 weeks ago, and it's been really amazing so far. Dr. Katie definitely is Superwoman. She's a lot to aspire to. I studied at Ohio State University for my dental degree, and fun fact, I used to teach yoga before I went to dental school.
Awesome. Thank you guys. So thank you guys for submitting your questions earlier on. I got a few questions before the session started, and I think probably the best one to start off with is, what options did you look into coming out of school? And then ultimately, why did you end up choosing Aspen? Dr. Caroline, since you just recently made the decision to work for Dr. Katie, how about you start?
For sure. That's a really applicable question. I was thinking about the exact same thing about a year ago, what I wanted to do after I graduated. And I chose to work with Aspen mostly after I met Dr. Katie, actually. I met her at the Vibe session. Aspen, before COVID, hosted these really big sessions in different cities throughout the US, and I went to one last year. Dr. Katie and I met, and she really has everything to aspire to. She's a mom, she works hard, she owns multiple practices, she learned to place implants, and Aspen supported her throughout all of that, giving her this really nice work-life balance that I personally would like to have looking forward into the next couple of years in my life. So I like the work-life balance. I like that you get to focus on your clinical skills and being a doctor rather than thinking about all of the patient management, how to advertise, all of the business. Those were things that maybe I'll learn those eventually. I don't want to learn them right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. Thanks. Dr. Katie, do you want to answer why you ended up choosing Aspen?
I had no aspirations of joining and staying with Aspen, to be totally honest. When I started, I came out of my residency and I thought I wanted to specialize, and I needed a job until I figured out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I enjoyed living in Florida. I didn't really want to move out of Florida. And so I needed a place to work with not much of a commitment, and Aspen fit the bill for that temporarily. But as I got into it, I was given a lot of freedom to hone whatever clinical skills I wanted. I got to do a lot of the surgery that I wanted to do. I got to learn how to place implants. I got to really manage how I wanted to practice. And that was really important to me. And I didn't have a practice for my parents. They're not dentists to walk into. So I stuck around, and it's been a great decision to stay. And I've really gotten to develop a lot of surgical skills that I wanted out of a specialty program, but got to do it here.
Okay, that actually leads into another question that was asked. How much autonomy do you have over your treatment plans? Dr. Katie, you want to start us off?
Yeah, we have 100% autonomy over the treatment plan. If you want to do it, you can treatment plan it, then it's fair game. There's nobody telling you that you have to hit this many root canals a month or you have to pull this many teeth. It's, whatever walks through the door and whatever you feel like that patient needs, that's what is treatment planned. And there's nobody going behind you changing things. So it's what you say is it.
Great. I think that's a common myth upon like all DSOs. They think that, you have a profit that you need to hit a certain, or that you have people telling you, what your quota is monthly and this, that, and the other. Dr. Caroline, is there anything you want to add on to that yourself?
Absolutely. So I definitely a year ago had the same exact question and was worried about that myth that you hear about in dental school that DSOs tell you this is the treatment plan and you're doing this. And once I've started working, I realized that, like Dr. Katie said, if it's something that you feel comfortable doing and you think is a feasible treatment plan, you can treatment plan it. There's nobody telling you what exactly to do. You definitely have autonomy as far as that's concerned, but there's also a huge network of support. Like, since I'm a new grad, if I'm treatment planning an implant, I'm going to call Dr. Katie because I want to make sure that it's done the way that it should be done. And that's not something that we learned, at least from my experience at OSU, too much about.
Awesome. Here's another one to add on. How do you stay engaged with your community while owning or managing a practice? I guess, Dr. Katie, you want to take that one since you own a few.
So Aspen does the day of service. So we have a free day of service for veterans within the community. So we do free dental care. Veterans are signed up, and we spend a Saturday doing care for veterans and whatever that may be. If it's a denture, if it's extractions, fillings, we try to get as much work as we can for each person. But you also have the ability to go to local dental society meetings and participate in those. Just because you're with Aspen doesn't mean you can't participate in local dental society meetings. Go to mom projects, do all of those service mission trips that you want. As a doctor, Aspen fully supports that, and you're able to do what you want within your community.
Great. And just to add on to that, I actually got a chance to see the Mouthmobile. So the Mouthmobile is literally just this, like, I guess, big RV where they have, I think, 2 operatories in, and they just travel across the U.S. to where there's a lot of patient demand, and they serve veterans, provide free dental care. They advertise it on news networks, and they just travel and provide care to, people in their local community, and the dentists in the local area will come out and volunteer their time to help out those folks. Let's see, another question. Is there any advice from Aspen you didn't take or didn't agree with? Dr. Katie, you want to take that one?
Any advice from Aspen that I didn't take or didn't agree with? They're here to support me, and even if they're giving me suggestions on, how many dental assistants do I need? They're going to tell me this is a recommendation of how many dental assistants we feel like the standard Aspen office should have, based on wages, how much things are going to cost, how profitable the office is. This is from a business recommendation of how many dental assistants you should have. I like to have more dental assistants in my office. I feel like it makes my life easier, and I can be more productive if I have more dental assistants. So I choose to employ more dental assistants in my offices than the, I guess, standard. But that again, it's business advice and it's guidelines, but at the end of the day, my office, my business, and I can do what I want with it.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's important for people to understand, because this is something I didn't even understand, that every Aspen practice has an owner. So for example, you have 4, soon to be 5, those are under your name. It's your PLLC. And then I work for Aspen Dental Management. So I'm strictly just supporting those practices, those owners. So in terms of my support to Dr. Katie here is I'm educating students and helping facilitate that relationship so she can fill her offices with associates, with doctors. So I'm helping her with the recruiting aspect. But yeah, great. Thank you, Dr. Katie. Let's see. What kind of CE opportunities are accessible, or what kind of mentorship is provided to further a newly grad's clinical skills? So I can answer the first part of that. What kind of CE opportunities are accessible? So if you look at this screen, Aspen is actually offering free CE. So if you go to that website there, you have a massive library full of free CE that you can take. But in terms of other CE that's provided, Dr. Katie, do you want to touch on that a little bit in terms of opportunities for you all?
Sure. There's Invisalign CE, so you can get Invisalign certified. Most offices now have an iTero scanner, so we've incorporated Invisalign into our practice flow. So you have the opportunity to take Invisalign continuing education, become Invisalign certified, and start that in the office. There are 2 different levels of implant continuing education. There's a restorative part, and then there's a surgical part. And the surgical part has a hands-on component where you can learn how to place implants as well as restore the implant-supported dentures, implant-supported crowns, and that's also offered through Aspen.
Dr.
Caroline, do you want to add anything onto that?
Absolutely. That's actually one of the reasons that I signed up with Aspen is the vast network of CE. Like Sammy said, you can go to their website and access any of it at any time. And they also have, like Dr. Katie was saying, really specific sort of courses. So I'm actually looking into taking the implant courses that Aspen offers, at least starting with the restorative part, so that I can do a better job restoring implants first and then branching out from there. And Aspen's there to support all of that, which is something that you can't find everywhere. And the mentorship part of that question, I think, is really applicable. Dr. Katie specifically is my mentor. So when you start with Aspen, they'll set you up with a person in particular who's your go-to, who you'll train with, who you can connect with at any time. Like Dr. Katie told me, I can call her anytime, and I feel really comfortable and safe to do that.
Great. Yeah, those are all important points.
So I'm going to add on to the mentorship program just for a quick second. So before you're plopped into an office and all right, great, you've got your license, you're not just stuck in an office and you don't have any more support and you're now seeing patients. You have a mentor that you're with for between 4 and 6 weeks. And you spend time with that mentor learning how to do multi-chair dentistry. So learning how to balance seeing multiple patients within an hour, how to run a schedule, how you want your schedule optimized so that you can be productive, how much time you need for certain procedures. So you work together with your mentor to go through all of this before you're kind of let loose to start seeing your own patient column and working independently in the office.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another question here, it says, how long is your mentorship when you first come on?
It's 4 weeks in an office, hands-on with the doctor, with the mentor doctor, but the mentorship continues beyond those 4 weeks. Your mentor should be accessible, email, phone, text, whatever. Dr. Caroline knows that even if she's mid-procedure, needs to get up, take a break, and ask me some questions. It's going to be maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most before I get back to her. So you always have someone who is available, even mid-procedure, to bounce ideas off of, to say, oh my gosh, I'm stuck, what do I do? And even me, as I'm a little more seasoned doctor, I still have people that I call on, that I go to if I have an issue or have questions about a treatment plan or a case that's particularly challenging.
Absolutely. Another question here. How was your transition from student dentist to a licensed practicing dentist? Did you feel well prepared? What were some challenges you faced? Dr. Caroline, do you want to start us off with that one?
Sure. So I just did that. I got my license on, I think, the 7th of August. So I've been practicing for just the last couple of weeks, and on a really small scale. Like, I'll do a couple fillings here or there, like as I feel comfortable doing it. And I felt like my experience from OSU really prepared me in general, but like Dr. Katie was saying, they're not just gonna like throw you into an office or throw you under the bus. Like, that's the whole point, kind of, is that Aspen is there for you to help you figure out, how much time do I need for this procedure? Like, I don't even know, because when I was in dental school, I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have the support network of people at the front office making sure that the patients were all coming in and being seen. Like, it's just so different that it takes you a little bit of time to figure out what that means for you. And Aspen supports you through all of that. Like, Dr. Katie and I are going to sit down when I see her on Thursday or Friday and figure out what my preferences are for how long I need for a filling or how long I need for a crown prep. So it's been really supportive. They're not throwing you into the water, so to speak, into the deep end.
Yeah, great. Dr. Katie, how was your transition from school to practicing dentist?
Doing a residency, I felt pretty confident in my clinical skills, and then a hospital-based residency, I felt like my medicine background dealing with more medically compromised patients on multiple medications, was pretty strong. From a dental student, having a strong medicine background, I think, is challenging because they weed out a lot of those patients. And that's where, again, your mentor is really important, because they can help you navigate these medically compromised patients, because that's the norm. Your patient base is medically compromised, and you don't get that a lot in school. So you get to benefit from my residency and my experience dealing with more medically compromised patients and more challenging medical situations. If you elect not to do a residency, you still have that support from people who have been there, who have learned, and who have been trained.
Great. I had another question ready, but I lost it. All right, we'll just take this one. Is there any restrictive covenant if you do decide to leave? Are there restrictions where you can work? Dr. Kitty,
No.
all right. That's pretty much the answer, guys. No. However, I do want to just tell a quick story. So I did an event at the University of South Carolina, MUSC, with Dr. Christie. And he was also saying that he's an owner, he's a practice owner, and he was telling everyone that there's no restrictive covenant. And then there was a student, this was during a lunch and learn, that raised her hand, and she said, I signed a restrictive covenant. Like, I have a year contract to work with Aspen. And then that just goes back to say that owners have full autonomy in terms of how they run their practice. Aspen Dental Management, which is the organization, like I said, that supports these practices, provides recommendations, and we provide you guys with metrics to show you what a healthy practice looks like. But ultimately, every practice owner can throw that out the window and do whatever they like. Dr. Katie, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, like Sammy was saying, it definitely is the practice owner's prerogative to have whatever contract drafted that they want. But I will say, for a majority of the owners in general, they do follow the model. We don't want to keep you here if you don't want to work with Aspen. We don't want to create a negative feeling or a negative work environment. And honestly, I'm not in the business to inhibit anyone's right to work or in whatever location that they choose. So if that means you want to open up right across the street, then go for it. But that's my personal opinion, and I think that's the more popular opinion from most of the owners. But in general, no, there is no restrictive covenant. It's kind of an at-will contract unless there's something specific verbiage in there by the owner. But you know, Aspen as a whole, we want to have happy doctors, and we want people who want to be here. And we understand that it's not necessarily the right fit for everyone. We don't want to force someone here who doesn't feel like it's the right fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this next question kind of goes into payment and salary and how that works. What is the base salary and what is the structure of how salaries increase? Is salary based on productivity at all? Dr. Katie, you want to start us off?
So you get a guaranteed daily rate. And as a new graduate or someone coming right out of a residency, that's a very comforting feeling, knowing that if a pandemic happens and there are no patients to be had at the moment, but you're showing up, you're trying to be there for the patients in case of any emergency, you're going to get paid your daily rate no matter what. So plague of locusts, another virus, you show up to work, you get your daily rate. So again, that's very comforting for a new graduate that hasn't gotten the speed and the skills up yet to be crazy productive. There is a productivity profit part for how you get paid. So you get your minimum daily rate, and then you get a percentage of the profit of the office as an associate. You get an 8 to 10% of the whole profit of the entire office. So it behooves the whole office to work together for profitability and productivity, not just every man out for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. And Dr. Caroline, if you want to add anything onto that in terms of what you thought of that and what, because that was something I had no idea, and that was so interesting to me that Aspen provides a way for everyone to work as a team rather than individually. But Dr. Caroline, is there anything you want to add on to that?
Sure. So that was something for me that was really appealing about Aspen. Like I said, it's really hard for you to have an understanding of how long it's going to take you to do any procedure, really, once you get out into the real world and don't have 3 hours with every patient. So knowing that you're going to be able to make a certain amount of money feels really reassuring and comforting, because we all do have student loans that we need to make payments on, and those payments are not going to change. And like they said, it's really a collaborative sort of thing too. So being an associate doctor with Aspen means that I'm working with another doctor, at least right now, at all times. So there's always someone there if I need anything. And that, like, the way that we get paid with the profit based and like sharing, also it makes it so that the lead doctor, like the managing clinical director that I work with, isn't just going to keep the hard cases or the profitable cases for themselves. They'll be more likely to share some of those harder cases that will help me build my clinical skills with me, because we're all sharing profit at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who's doing what procedure. So that way I get better experience, as well as, you know, profit sharing always sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question here is, what kind of cases are you referring out? And I'm guessing that's going to vary practice to practice, Dr. Katie, but do you want to touch on that?
It's what you don't feel comfortable with, you can refer out. So if I am not an endo fan, I don't like it. If I'm not going to fall into the canal, I'm not going to do it. So I refer out a lot of endo. I have much stronger surgical skills. So there's not much I refer out in terms of surgery unless the patient wants to be sedated. So I refer out less surgery, I refer out more endo. But if there's a case that's really challenging and you feel like they need a prosthodontist, feel free to punt to the prosthodontist. There is no shame in punting to the specialist. We don't have to keep everything in-house. But again, that's where Aspen's great in having you expand your skills and expand your knowledge. And you say, I really don't want to refer out so much endo, I want to be able to do it all. Then great, we give you the opportunity to learn and get better at doing endo. Or if you say, I want to learn how to do impacted wisdom teeth, I want to do most of the surgery, then great, you can take surgical courses, work with a doctor who's strong in surgery, and hone your surgical skills. So you can refer out whatever you want.
Great. Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of questions from you guys on the salary. generally just asking what is the typical salary for an associate coming out of school. And I just think that this is going to vary drastically practice to practice and owner to owner. But Dr. Katie, do you want to touch on that a little bit in terms of how that works?
So again, you're going to get your guaranteed daily rate. So let's say, for example, a daily rate for an associate can vary depending on where you are throughout the country and your owner. So let's just say $500 a day for an associate can go up or down depending on where you are. So $500 a day, you work an average of 22 days a month. So you're looking at a minimum of about $132,000 a year coming fresh out of school, no experience, and that's no incentive. So that number is bare minimum plague scenario where you don't make an incentive. And it can only go up from there. Just depends on how profitable the office is and how productive the office is as well. But that's probably the bare minimum that you could expect coming out as a new grad.
Great. Okay. Does Aspen look for dentists that have a residency? I notice a lot more people are going in the route of doing GPRs, but I'm not entirely sure why. As a hiring dentist and owner, Dr. Katie, do you want to touch on that?
No, I don't feel like a residency is required, especially because of the background and the education that I came from. If you are working with me, you get to benefit from the residency that I did. So a lot of the training that I had from my residency gets passed on to you as my mentee and associate. So I said, no, it's not a requirement. It's not something that I look for. Skills can be taught. So as long as someone is willing to learn and willing to have, take feedback and willing to grow, then that's really the biggest thing that I personally look for. Skills can be taught, and that just takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Here's a good one for Dr. Caroline. What does a new dentist find frustrating?
Frustrating. So for everybody is going to be different. And for me, I have a great mentor. I have a pretty good baseline of my clinical skills. What's frustrating for me the most is learning to be a leader, but Aspen also helps you with that. So I'm feeling better as I get more training and as I watch Dr. Katie more and have all these resources on my hands to become a better leader. But that's definitely something they don't teach you in dental school, is how to lead a team and how to engage everyone on the team in a way that's productive for the entire office. So I'd say that is more of like a harsh learning curve rather than a frustration, but that's the closest I get to frustration.
Okay. Here's another good one. I was just curious how working for Aspen varies from a traditional private practice route that we think of in school. Dr. Caroline, do you want to touch on that since you're brand new into the field?
Sure. So Aspen guarantees you this support that you don't have guaranteed from a private practice. When I was in dental school, we had 3 courses on practice management, which felt like a lot. And I got to learn through that practice management course that about 80% of people who go out into private practice right away end up departing from private practice. And when I was talking with some of the other dentists I knew, that's a story you'll hear a lot, is that I graduated from school, I went to go work for a private practice, and it didn't work out. So with Aspen, I at least knew going into it that I would have that guaranteed daily minimum. That's not something you're going to get at a private practice. I knew that there would be a support network for me in terms of all of the business behind it. And that, again, that's not something that you necessarily have in a private practice either. I also know that there are Aspens everywhere. So I moved to North Carolina from Ohio because I wanted to be somewhere different. And going somewhere out of state, I didn't know what any of the private practices in North Carolina would be like. I wasn't going to sign up for that. I wanted to sign up for something that was more clear ahead of time. So I think that Aspen is a little bit more forthcoming and straightforward than a lot of private practice.
Great. This one, I'm getting a few questions revolved around ownership. How does one go to practice ownership at Aspen? Are there any requirements or a down payment on the office? Dr. Katie, do you want to touch on that?
Sure. So to be an owner, you need to be able to run an office successfully and have a profitable office, because yes, you do purchase your office. So take out a loan, buy the office, and you're expected to pay those loans back to the bank. It's not, you don't purchase it from Aspen. Aspen builds the office, and then you go to the bank and get a loan and buy the office. So it's not like we're writing Aspen a check, I'm paying the bank. But so you need to make sure your office is profitable. You need to be able to run an office, make it profitable, and being able to go through those steps of being an associate, learning how to run the office, learning an associate schedule, then becoming an MCD or a managing clinical director, running the office, running multiple columns and chairs by yourself, training another doctor, working with an associate, and then you can kind of progress into ownership. But I think the path to success is really going through associate, MCD, partner, or owner. If you skip some of those, it can make it a little bit more challenging, because you've already proven success as an associate. You've been proven successful as an MCD, and now you're set up for more success as an owner, and it makes it that much more safe that you're going to be profitable and you're going to be financially successful.
Great. Yeah. And that's kind of how it works. When you come on as a student, more often than not, you're brought in as an associate, and then you will get promoted. Once you can lead an office on your own, you'll be an MC, which is just a fancy term for lead dentist. So Dr. Caroline will be working either with Dr. Katie or an MCD, a lead dentist in the office. And that's kind of how they evaluate to see your ability to run an office, just like Dr. Katie was saying. Another question here is, what are the benefits of ownership at Aspen?
Benefits of ownership, it's just like anything else. There's great financial reward being an owner. There's also a great work-life balance, because you can have an associate and an MCD in an office, and then you can come in and work a couple days and then break off a little bit, work back in the office. So you have a little bit more flexibility and a little more freedom, because you're not necessarily the one running the office 100% of the time, depending on how many offices you have. If you have one office, then more often than not, you are the MCD and you have an associate. But again, having that associate there gives you the ability to break away, maybe work a 4-day week. Your associate works, 5 days, and then the associate can take a 4-day week. It gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom to work your schedule a little bit better.
Great.
But I will say, just because you're not an owner doesn't mean you can't have that flexibility and freedom. Once an office is fully staffed, for me personally, I try to have associates and doctors take time off, work a 4-day work week here and there, so that they do have some work-life balance. They can take some long weekends, get away, and not feel like they're working, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, and they have some time.
Great. Thank you. I don't know how well you all know other DSOs, but there's a question here that says, what sets Aspen apart from other DSOs? Whichever one of you is comfortable answering that, feel free.
So I've obviously never worked for another DSO, but when I was applying for jobs, I looked everywhere to make sure that I was making the most informed and educated choice about where I wanted to work. And for me, the mentorship was the biggest part that was really different. Since I had met Dr. Katie personally and gone through that whole process, I knew that she and I were a good fit, and I knew that it was going to work out, and Aspen gave me the opportunity to do that. Other DSOs didn't give me that opportunity. So that's, for me, the biggest thing.
Yeah, great. Dr. Katie, is there anything you want to add on to that?
I'm really going to go with Dr. Caroline, because when I joined, I was only Aspen. I really didn't look anywhere else. So I really don't know a whole lot and can't really speak to a lot of what other DSOs have to offer or how they differ.
Yeah. Another question here is, do you offer student loan repayment programs? The answer is yes, but it varies from owner to owner. And this is tied in with another question that was submitted here. How much autonomy does a practice owner have? Touched on it a little bit earlier. They have full autonomy. I mean, it's their practice. It's their license on the front door or their name on the front door. So they have full autonomy. In terms of student loan repayment programs, Dr. Katie, do you offer that?
No, not right now. Not for North Carolina, no.
Yeah. I mean, they're
But
typically,
for other areas throughout the country, there are loan repayment options for other areas in the country. But for North Carolina and I think Virginia, I don't think there are any loan repayment options. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. You know, some places are a little bit harder to staff, and so if you're open to being in maybe a more rural or a little bit different of a location, sometimes there are loan repayment options even within more popular states.
yeah, absolutely. Another question here. Have your hours in the practice changed at all? I'm guessing that's in regards to the pandemic.
We did when we had some state regulations and guidelines from the CDC and the ADA. We did reduce our hours to emergency care, but since then, for the last 2 or 3 months, we have been back to full hours of operation.
Okay. And then to add on to that, are you using teledentistry? And if you are, how did that look?
We did not. North Carolina did not get teledentistry going during the pandemic.
Okay. Let's see another question here. Are there insurance benefits, dental health, etc., and retirement plans at Aspen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have full benefits, dental obviously, but health, 401k. There's a match as well with a 401k that after you're in a year, there's a match.
All right. So another COVID question. In unprecedented times, what has Aspen Dental Management done for you the last few weeks? Or I guess, yeah, weeks or months during this whole thing?
Well, they were definitely instrumental in procuring the PPE for the offices. So gowns, masks, shields, everything that you can imagine. They made sure that the offices had enough PPE, and so we never ran out. So PPE shortages and it being a limiting factor for my patient care was not an issue. Also, while we had to be our hours were temporarily reduced, Aspen was also able to help with lease negotiations to pause payments for offices for the leases. And so there were a couple of other things along the way, but in a similar fashion that we were able to negotiate pausing different kinds of payments, lease payments, whatever that was. And then PPE was huge.
Yeah, and just something to add there. We're the second largest purchaser from Henry Schein behind the U.S. government because there's over 815 Aspen Dental practices, and the number is only getting larger. So having that large scale amount of practices, we're able to leverage, as Dr. Katie was saying, so with Henry Schein. So we get very good prices in terms of PPE that the practices need or any kind of devices, instruments, disposables that the practice needs. Another question here, does Aspen cover malpractice insurance for their providers?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Okay. Dr. Caroline, do you have aspirations of owning your own practice?
That's a hard question to answer from 3 weeks in, but I'd say it's something I definitely consider. I'm happy right now, though, not owning a practice.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here. I don't have an Aspen office in my area. Can I open one? Dr. Katie, you want to just address that?
So Aspen has a team of real estate experts that pick certain locations for a reason. So there may be a reason why there's not an Aspen in that location. But once you join Aspen, there are ways to work with the real estate team and say, hey, I'm from this area. There's no Aspen. I think it'd be a really great spot. And that might be something that they investigate and may eventually put one in that area.
Great. What is a typical timeline to increasing salary?
Increasing salary is really kind of up to the profitability of the office. So it's up to you. The more productive you are, the more profitable you are, the more money you make. So the harder you work, the more you want to grow your skills, the more productive you want to be, the more you figure out how to work smarter, not harder, and get your efficiency down, then the more productive you're going to be and the more money you're going to make.
Absolutely. Here's a good one for both of you. How involved are you in the business aspect of the practice? Dr. Caroline, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So you can be as involved as you want to be. Right now, as a brand new grad, I'm not at all involved, and that's exactly how I want it to be. But I know that as my clinical skills develop, I would like to understand more about my patient's acceptance of treatment plans and my patient retention. And these are all like key performance indicators or like metrics that are available to you at like almost any given time. You can always go on and like look through, like Aspen's software will generate a report for you that you can look through and see what those numbers look like. And I'm sure if I ever have any questions, again, I can always ask Dr. Katie and she'll help me figure it out. And if she doesn't know, she'll point me in the direction of someone who can.
Great. Dr. Katie, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, even as a business owner, you can be as involved or as uninvolved as you want. It really just depends. You know, you can say, all right, I put my full faith in Aspen. I'm going to go with all of your recommendations and we're going to do everything the way Aspen recommends. Or you can say, hey, you know, I don't really like this route. I want to go a different route, but I want to, you know, adhere to this recommendation. But when you start out, you don't have to be super involved, or you can want to dig into the numbers. That's okay too. And there are people to help you understand all of the metrics and understand how certain behaviors influence the profitability of the office and the productivity of the office. But as a new grad, you can really get into it, or you can just learn it as you go. When I started, I had zero desire to be a practice owner. I really didn't care. I just wanted to show up and do my job and go home. And if you would have asked me 8 years ago that I would own 5 offices, I would have told you you're crazy and I didn't believe you. So it really, you know, it can come with time.
Great. So what was your turning point when you realized you wanted to own a practice?
When I was down in Florida, I was a partner before I came to North Carolina. And I was running my office, and I was running my office really well. And my owner doctor owned like 12 other offices. I didn't see him hardly ever. And I figured, why is he getting all the profits when I'm the one working in the office? And so I wanted to partner in so I could reap some more of the financial benefit of my hard work.
That's awesome. Another good question here. Does Aspen provide your personal production and retention analytics for you? If so, what software is used for this purpose? Can you track year by year, month by month, the production changes? Either one of you can take that one.
Yeah, they have, you know, you can look at your P&L, your profit and loss statements through Host Analytics, and it can tell you the profitability of the office and the productivity of financially the doctors and what is being produced, and also the cost associated with the office. So what your costs and supplies are if you're having overtime. So can really break down everything to show you where the holes are, where you're leaking funds, or where you're doing well. And it's month by month and year over year.
Yeah. So what does Aspen Dental Management do to help you if an office isn't performing as well, or there is holes in the numbers and something is not where it's supposed to be?
So they are able to send in practice support from like a regional manager or a development manager or whoever. Sorry, hang on one second. A regional manager or development manager to come in and say, okay, now where are the issues? Is it from the front? Are we not scheduling properly? Are we not collecting money? They can identify those problems and then help either retrain the behaviors of the office or say, hey, you know, I think it might be a doctor issue. We need to get a mentor doctor in here to kind of, you know, see what's going on. If there is a bedside manner problem or whatever, to give this doctor some support. If they're drowning because their schedule isn't being managed properly, what can we do to help them?
Great. Another one to piggyback.
I'm going to step away for one quick second. Hang on one second.
Okay, no worries.
You can give Dr. Caroline a question.
All right. How many patients do you see on an average day? I know you're just now starting, but you're seeing patients, correct?
Mm-hmm. I am seeing patients. So I don't have my own column yet. That happens, like Dr. Katie was saying, you spend 4 to 6 weeks right from onboarding, working specifically with your mentor doctor, and everybody's different. The way that Dr. Katie likes to do it, I see some of her patients or as many as I want. If I said, Dr. Katie, I see that you're doing this crown prep leader, and I think that would be a really good opportunity for me. Can I try it? You'd say, of course you can. And as far as new patients per day or like patients per day, I'd say at least 15 to 20 probably is about average for the practice that I'm going to. I'm going to be at a relatively busy practice. I know that not all Aspens see quite as many patients and that it really varies location to location. But where I'll be going, they see many new patients per day, and they do teach, or Dr. Katie specifically has given me skills to learn how to manage multiple operatories at once. So I know that I have a patient in exam room 5, and that's going to be my production, but there's also a new patient in exam room 1 and a new patient in exam room 2. So how am I going to structure the next little bit of time that I have so that I can make sure that I'm seeing each patient and getting them, whoever can be seen the fastest and being able to get out the fastest, basically make sure I don't make them wait for an hour for, 5 minutes of my time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the question, Dr. Katie, was how many patients do you see on an average day? Do you want to touch on that as well?
Yeah, I can see probably 35 to 40 patients a day. And again, it's not, but some of those patients are a post-op or a denture adjustment or something that's pretty quick and simple. And sometimes the dental assistants can handle, re-cementing a temporary, or if it's something easy, I may not have to physically put my hands on that patient. But like Dr. Caroline was saying, you become a master of efficiency, of, structuring your hour of seeing a couple of different patients, and how are you going to see them, and how is your flow going to be, so that you can do your production, you can see a new patient, and you can do a wax try-in for a denture all within the same hour. And it's very possible. You just need to figure out your flow so that you can manage those different chairs. But again, still giving the patients the time and attention that they deserve, and not making the appointments feel rushed.
Yeah. So just to touch on that as well, a question here is, what does the patient demographic look like?
So patient demographic for Aspen is, it's more blue collar. It's more patients that, work paycheck to paycheck. They don't usually have a whole lot in savings. They have been dental avoiders. They have a lot of neglect, and they haven't been to a dentist in quite a long time, so their need is very high, and therefore their treatment plans can be quite expensive. And so that's where Aspen is beneficial to breaking treatment down, looking at payment options for patients, because a lot of them don't have the extra cash on hand to afford a $2,000 treatment plan. They just don't have it. So they need to be able to break that down to smaller payments and smaller bits, whether it's breaking up treatment or breaking up the financial part. Aspen's there to help the patient overcome those obstacles and really make it about how can we get them care that they have neglected for themselves. So it's really advocating for the patient because they have not been advocating for themselves.
Yeah. And in terms of clinical skills, what kind of procedures are you seeing often?
It varies depending on where you're located. I would say the Morganton office is a little more rural. It's in Western North Carolina, so their demographic is more extractions, dentures, but that office is the office I place the most implants in. So I place a lot of implants for implant-supported dentures, but it is more of a denture office. My office in Kernersville, more central North Carolina, it does more crown and bridge and partials.
Okay. Here's a good question that just came in. What are some qualities you look for when you're hiring a new dentist?
Like I said earlier, it's really being able to take feedback and take suggestions and being coachable, and it's really about the attitude more so than the hand skills.
Here's one back to kind of metrics and how the office is performing. Do you have weekly or monthly discussions on target goals with other and staff in the office?
Yes, we have. It's called a MOR. It's a monthly office review to review the performance of the office, where we excelled, where we fell a little short, what goals do we want to work on, and what do we want to work on for the next month, what behaviors or what certain metric do we want to focus our efforts on for the following month. So yes, that's reviewed monthly. You get a daily performance report to your email as a doctor of the key metrics to see how you're doing day to day as well.
Great. Yeah, and this is, I mean, you guys, all practices across the U.S. have access to everybody's, metrics, so you can see how you're performing, not even just your practice, but, even if you have healthy competition with other owners, or I've heard that can happen as well. Here's a good question for Dr. Caroline. Where was it? What was your biggest hesitation about joining Aspen?
That's a hard question to answer for sure.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, it was more of a question of like joining a DSO or joining a private practice. Like I wasn't really considering a lot of other DSOs. It was like Aspen is the DSO that I would do, or other private practices. And honestly, I felt like there were more hesitations with private practice. There were so many more unknowns. And like I said, Aspen was very transparent about everything. So I didn't have really any hesitations going in. Like they checked every box for me kind of. And I felt like they were being upfront and honest, and it's hard to get that sort of a vibe with a private practice owner.
Dr. Katie, do you want to add anything to that? Did you have any hesitations?
I had a lot of hesitations. You come out of dental school and you're like, oh, a DSO. And I'm like, oh God, I just sold my soul. I have gone to the dark side. And I was very unsure. I mean, unlike Dr. Caroline, I did zero homework of what I was going to do. I just kind of said, all right, I need a job. I need to get paid, and this is good for now. But I was very hesitant. I was not sure what kind of support I was going to get. I really had no idea if someone really was going to go behind me and change my treatment plans, or if I was going to be told I had to produce X amount of money, but I didn't encounter any of that when I first started. There was nothing. And so I was pleasantly surprised that all of those stereotypes are really unfounded through Aspen.
Yeah. This question is geared towards you, Dr. Katie. How do you balance raising 2 kids and owning 4, almost 5 practices?
So Aspen gives you a lot of financial flexibility and financial freedoms. I have a nanny. That helps a lot. And I don't have to send my kids to daycare. So if one of them's sick, my nanny still comes to work. If my kid has a cold, I can still come to work. My husband travels 3 days a week for his job. And so being able to have a nanny help with the kids I wouldn't be able to do it without her. But also Aspen understands that you have a life outside of work. They really do. And I think they're very sensitive to that. They're sensitive that things happen, not just being a doctor and an owner, but for dental assistants, if their kids get sick and have to come home from school, we all try to be supportive, and that we're trying to balance having a family and having a job at the same time. And it's really special to have a place that really supports you and supports the ability to have a family and have some flexibility when it comes to raising kids and going on maternity leave. When I had my children, they were really supportive.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another question here. I lost it. Hold on. How involved is the corporation in running the practice? I think you touched on this a little bit, but ultimately I would just say it's more so a partnership than anything. Everyone's working together to get to the same end goal. But do you all want to add on to that?
I mean, the corporation gives you guidelines. They have everything structured as a general guideline. It's up to you whether or not you want to follow it. And the model works. So there's really, people, if you want to buck the system and try to come up with and reinvent the wheel, go for it. But the model works and it's here for a reason.
Great. Let's see, another question here. Can I work 4 days a week?
Depends on your owner. Depends what their needs are. I'd say more often than not, you probably need to be working 5 days a week. And then once you get established and on with an owner and under an MCD, that's something that can potentially be worked out every so often. But, you're just starting your career. I'd plan on working 5 days a week.
Yeah. Dr. Caroline, this one's for you. What advice would you give to a dental student to be prepared coming out of dental school? I know obviously you're just now getting acclimated, but any advice, if any?
So I think the landscape right now looks really different than it did for me a year ago. Being a new grad this year, I know that you're not getting into clinic as much as you want, and I'm sure that that's really frustrating. So during that free time that you have, trying to use the resources that are given to you. With Aspen, they have so many different resources. And I never really did any of the webinars or anything like that until COVID happened. And I was really pushed to you have to do this now. And now that I've started doing it, I've realized it's just so easy to get a hold of these resources and to learn more. So do your best to learn as much as you can, especially about the new technologies like iTero scanners and CBCT and anything that you can learn about outside of what they're teaching you in your curriculum.
Yeah. Dr. Katie, is there anything you want to add on to that? Okay. Well, it is 7 o'clock now. I do want to thank you both for taking the time. They're volunteering their time. You can see Dr. Katie is still in the office. I really can't thank you I really appreciate it. You both have great stories. And feel free to use the CE, the free CE. I mean, it's on here. You can sign up and you have access to a massive library of free free CE courses. If you guys have any further questions, my email is there. I am going to be raffling off a $50 Amazon gift card, so be on the lookout for that in your inbox, in your email. But other than that, that's it. Again, thank you both so much. Thank you guys at VCU for joining us. If you have clinical questions, I'm sure Dr. Katie, Dr. Caroline will be more than happy to talk with you guys outside of this.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, Sammy can give you my email address, or if you ever want to see an Aspen office, you can certainly come down and visit and see what it's all about. But until Dr. Embry, I said hi.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Best of luck, Dr. Caroline, with getting adjusted. But other than that, bye, everybody. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.